大家好，欢迎来收看中文简单。Welcome everybody to Chinese is Easy, the channel which makes learning Chinese easy and demystifies and debunks all those myths about it being an impossible language to learn. In today's video, I want to talk about memorizing Chinese characters. Okay, so the reason we're talking about memorizing Chinese characters is because I had a question from one of the viewers, Dora, and she asked me how did I memorize all those Chinese characters when I was learning Chinese. Now, I used a couple of methods and I'm going to share them with you today. But the first one is not really a cheeky trick or hack or anything like that. It's quite simple. And the first method is just to understand the character. Understand the evolution and the root of the character so that you know what you're looking at and you don't have to just grope around and pluck stuff out of thin air. And there's a great book that I highly recommend to anyone that will help you do that. And that is this one. It is Learning Chinese Characters from Ms. Jiang. And this book is awesome. This was like one of my favorite learning materials when I was getting started. And what this book does for you, which I'll show you right here, is that it takes you through the evolution of each character from the Jiaguwen, which is the ancient oracle bone character, where they used to write the character on the scapular bone of cows or on turtle shells. And you can see here, it shows you how it evolves. And you can see from the ancient character how we got up to what we've got today. And I found this really, really invaluable because it meant that I had a context. I understood what I was looking at. It wasn't all just completely abstract nonsense. These weren't just random shapes that looked like space invaders or hammers or flagpoles or stuff like they were to me before I understood them. So if we take a little look at this one, you can see the character Da, meaning big. And you can see here how it's evolved from a guy like this, okay? Now this is Da, meaning big. And this then evolved to something like this. And then finally, we have the current version that we have now. And it's like this. And that is all from a character of a man standing like that or standing like this, okay, with his arms apart. So he looks like he's making himself big. Now, the character for Fu, which means a man, is this one. And it's basically the same as Da, but in the old character, it had a thing for like a chopstick that went through a man's top knot. And this was the symbol of manlyhood, okay? It was a type of hair clasp that went through the top knot. And if you want to make the character for man, use Fu, because it's like a man, but with something through his hair there. So if you're like me and you're a bit of a nerd about languages and you find that interesting, you know, I think you'll agree this is quite an exciting way to get a context of it and to really understand what you're looking at. And I found it endlessly fascinating. There's loads of really cool stuff you learn. So the character for bird is Niao, okay? I hope you can see that. And if we want to make this into the character for island, okay, which is Dao, we put this character, Shan, which means like a mountain. So an island is a place where you have lots of birds sitting on a mountain or a rocky outcrop. So you can imagine a rocky outcrop in the ocean with lots of gulls sitting on it. So it's pretty interesting, right? I found it really interesting. Maybe I'm just a total geek, but I thought it was really fun, and I was just scribbling away learning this, like, wow, cool. So it's a story and humans are evolved to love stories. So you understand the evolution of the character and you understand the story behind it. So this just makes learning it and memorizing it so much easier. In fact, you're not really just memorizing it, you actually understand it. You're not just plucking stuff out of thin air. Okay, so the second way to memorize Chinese characters is to learn and understand the radicals. Okay, so the radical is the part that's on the left hand side of a two-part character. So for example, this is mu, meaning wood, and this means wood because it kind of looks like a tree here, you can see, with the roots going down. Okay, now if we add another wood to this, you can see here, this is also mu, and this is mu zipang, which means a mu radical. When you hear something zipang, it means this little radical on the left. And this gives you an understanding of what the character will be about. Okay, so this is like the meaning. And then this part here is often the phonetic component. So this is called the radical, and this is often the phonetic component. So you look here, you've got mu zipang and a mu. That's a whole lot of wood, and that means forest. So there's a kind of logic to that. Here, this isn't phonetic, but I'll give you another example, which is. So I'm going to give you an example of another radical, okay? So this radical is related to food. So let's say you want to remember the word for bao, like 吃饱了, I'm full up, yeah? So you would think, now what's this word related to? Oh yeah, it's related to food. So it's probably this radical, right? Now you're like, bao, 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 bao. Okay, what could it be? So you might already know this character. Bao. So you might be thinking, bao. Okay, yes, maybe, and that jogs your memory. And you remember that this is how we say bao, meaning full up. So you've got the food radical plus a component part. This isn't a fail-safe way, but it will get the cogs of your brain whirring and get you thinking, okay? So another example might be yang, meaning sheep, okay? And it looks like a sheep with horns here, okay? These are like horns, and this is the face of an animal. So yang, it looks like a sheep, that's why it's that. And we might be trying to remember, what's the word for ocean? Haiyang, I know it's haiyang. Which yang is it? Okay, so you have this here. These are 3 droplets, sandian shui. This is called sandian shui, and it means 3 droplets of water. And then you think yang, which yang is it? Okay, I remember. It's this yang, okay? And although this has nothing to do with this sandian shui, 3 droplets of water, tells you that it's a water related word, and this is the phonetic component that tells you how to say it. This is how to read it, the meaning, and this is how to say it. Okay, so that's the second method, which is to make sure you understand the radicals. Okay, so thirdly, I want to talk about some specific mnemonic techniques that I learned to help me memorize Chinese characters. Now, I got into mnemonics around the same time that I was learning Chinese, and I got into it through this guy, Tony Buzan. You can actually see me talking about Tony Buzan and his memory techniques in another video called The 5 Hacks That I Use for Learning Chinese. And Tony Buzan is a really cool guy. This is the Master Your Memory book. This is like a follow-up to his first series, which is a 3-part series, 3-book series on study skills. And I highly, highly recommend that. And what Tony Buzan teaches is all about how the mind works and how our memory works. And our memory does not like to just memorize like black and white numbers and words on a page. We think in terms of humor and color and exaggeration and stories. So you really need to try and build all of that stuff in to your memorization. And for example, if you have 10 characters that you need to remember for a vocab test you have at the end of the week, Tony Bazan teaches a method for stringing 10 items together, and you create a humorous story around that. Now, this won't help you to actually remember what the character is and how you remember it, but I found it really useful because I was carrying around in my head lists of vocab, and what it would allow me to do is like practice that stuff in my head on the bus, and I would be doing little tests for myself and carrying vocab lists of 10 items and 20 items in my head, and it really drilled it in there, and it just made it really fun as well. So for example, say you have got 10 items to remember. The first one might be a shoe, second is a hamburger, 3 is a chicken, 4 is a teacup. You would find a way of stringing all these together in a story. So one day a huge shoe was bouncing down the street. It kicked a huge hamburger right up the butt of a chicken. This chicken flew forward and landed in a cup of boiling hot tea, sending the tea splashing everywhere. Now, this is like a storytelling technique, and you might think, God, this sounds bizarre, but it really works. And if you check out the Tony Bazan books, he gives very good examples of how you use it, and I used it to like remember all the planets in the solar system and stuff like that. And the principle that this works on is synesthesia, which is combining all of the senses of the mind. So you think of taste, touch, smell, color, sound, all of these things, and you try to exaggerate it. And also the mind responds to certain things, like if it's kind of humorous, or if it's maybe a bit sexy or something like that, you'll remember it more because it sticks out in your mind, because these are strong drives that we have. You know, you get a lot of dopamine from laughing or from chasing after the opposite sex or whatever. So you need to try and build all of those in, understand how your memory works. It doesn't really just like to memorize lists of stuff. So try this out, make a story out of your 10 vocab items. And like I say, I understand you might be thinking, yeah, but Fred, this doesn't help me understand what the Chinese character is. No, it doesn't, but it gives you stuff to play with in your head. And I found that it really did help me to burn these into my mind. So that's the first technique, is the storytelling method. You link them together, the items together in a funny story, using synesthesia and all the faculties of the mind, all the senses. And the second one is a rhyme system. So we have so 1 to 5, okay? Now, number 1 kind of sounds like a bun, okay? So you could think of this, sorry, that's meant to be like a hamburger bun. So 1 bun, 2 shoe, 3 could be C, 4 is door, 5 sorry, you can't see that. 5 is hive. This is meant to be a beehive, okay? And this goes all the way up to 10. You can use your own rhymes. There's no right or wrong one. You can use your own things for this. So what you do with this is you then add this to your Chinese vocab item. So like, let's say these are ones that we used in the last example as well. So you've got bun plus water, okay, bun plus shui. So you might imagine going to pick up a beautiful, juicy Big Mac, biting into it and finding that it's all soggy, and you know how disgusting that bread is when it goes it's waterlogged. You could imagine it, how it feels in your mouth and how it disintegrates in the hand, and it's disgusting. So 1 is bun, and bun is water, and then water, shui, okay? 2 is shoe. So you could imagine walking around in shoes made of wood and how uncomfortable that would be, how they would rub on your feet, and you could hear the clopping of these big wooden clogs and imagine how they're falling off. 3 is bao, full up. So you can imagine a big fat guy who's, you know, completely full, floating on the water here, or maybe even sinking down through the water. So this is the rhyme association method, okay? Then we also have the visual association. So okay, I'll try and keep this quick. So number 1, I think it looks a bit like a gold flag. Number 2 looks like a nice swan. Number 3 looks like a butt. Now you can use something like this, something rude or a bit, you know, like I say, something that's going to stick in your mind. So it could be a fat butt. Number 4, for me, that's always a sailboat. You know, that's really obvious to me. And this guy, number 5, used to be a fat guy with a big round belly like this. So again, you'll use, I found this easier rather than the rhyme system because I'm more of a visual person rather than an auditory person. So then you would add your vocab item to each of these in the same way that we did the last time. And as I say, you might think this is outlandish and weird and it doesn't teach you, help you remember the actual characters, but test it out for your vocab items and I bet you'll find that you remember them and they stick in your mind so much better. Like number 1, bun, I can already remember, is shui, water, right? Shu is 2, is mu, wood. Number 3 is sea, and we said that was bao, a guy floating around very full and then sinking. So it sticks in the mind, it really does help you. So check them out. Now, a last one that I want to go into really quickly is called the memory palace system. And in a memory palace, you either remember like your own house or somewhere that you've been or an imaginary place. And in each place, as you go into the building, you have little locuses, little locations around the house or the palace or the building. So I might use my apartment, and as I walk in, on the left, I have a door, and hanging off the door, I could have a vocab item. As I go down the corridor, on the right, I have a frame there, and I could have something in the picture frame. So as you move around your building, you have images in your head of what these things are, and you can try with 10, build up to 20. And again, this doesn't help you remember the Chinese character, but it's a cool system, and it really does actually help you with your vocab test, because you will get this kind of much stronger association because it's really bringing the whole stuff to life with all your senses. So I'm aware of time, I've been talking for a long time. Try checking this out. Number 1, get Mrs. Zhang's book. I'll give a link in the show notes below. Get that book and learn about, you know, Jiaguwen and the evolution of characters so you understand what you're looking at. Number 2, learn the radicals, understand the radicals and the phonetic symbol so you can understand what it means when you look at it and how you say it. And then check out some of these mnemonic systems, and you can check out Tony Bazan's book as well. So that's all I've got for you right now. I hope that's been of use. Leave comments below, please. Please make sure you subscribe and check out the other videos. That's everything for now, and I'll see you guys all really soon. Take care.